Hey guys, this is Doc D's from Fist of the Empire, back with another Crowfall video. Today we're going to take a look at the skill trees. Again, we are still in pre-alpha 5.4 with 5.5 around the corner with some new additions. However, these skills themselves are set up the way that the developers want them, so they won't be changing much as far as the trees themselves go, maybe a skill here and there. However, the trees will remain the same. So what you see here in the basic training section, it will look this empty spot here. I should be training 2 skills instead of 1. Everybody in the pre-alpha has VIP, and this is what it will look like when you have VIP. You can train 2 skills in each branch here. However, you cannot train 2 skills in the same tree. So, for instance, in racial basics, I cannot train intellect and constitution. You cannot do it. However, I can train racial basics, and if I have this next one open, I can train something in Sylvan at the same time. However, if you are not VIP, this is what your setup will look like right here. You'll be training 1 skill, and this one will be locked. But let's go ahead and jump into this one here, take a look at it. So this is how all of the trees are set up. You start with your very basic introduction tree. And this is lateral movement from left to right as far as your training goes, so I can't just start training stuff right in the middle. You will always start on this far left, and in order to progress, you need to have 4 out of the 5 pips trained in any preceding skill. So this is support power. I have 2 pips trained. I cannot move on to sprint movement modifier until I have 4 pips trained into support power. The way these pips work, as you progress further into the tree, so it's not going to show me on here, but the basics takes, I think, maybe 12 hours to train an entire 1 skill to completion. However, the further down you go into the tree, yeah, this one takes 1 day and 11 hours to completely train it. So as you go further into the trees, it gets harder and harder to train them. It takes a lot more time. So training skills in Crowfall is not like other games where you just go out and you grind and grind and grind and grind. This is time-based and it's real time. For the pre-alpha, I believe they're running it at 10 times the speed so that we can have a chance to check out more skills prior to the actual launch. But on launch, it will be real time. So as we move through and we're training skills, these take a lot longer. So this support power right here, I think the first point was like 1 hour to train it. What is this? Oh, not even 29 minutes to train the first pip in this particular skill set. The second pip was, I think, over an hour. And then this third pip is going to take 2 hours and 42 minutes to train that 1 pip. And remember, I can't move on until I have 4 of them trained in this particular skill. Total 14 hours for 1 skill to completion in this particular tree. So in order to move on to these next trees, you start out in your basic tree and you have to complete 50% of it. You could just follow your percentage up here. You don't have to completely fill in all of these skills. However, these are basic skills, so if you have the time, why not? Once you have 50% of the class basics open, you can then move on to fighter, mage, or rogue. If you're VIP, congratulations, you can train 2 of these at the same time. If you're not, you're going to have to pick which route you want to take. Let's say fighter, for instance. So you'll start training, and every time a pip is completed, like this one, if I train this one to completion, 10 hours and 56 minutes goes by, this is completed. However, it does not stop training. It'll stay in this particular skill tree, but all the time will go into my time bank, which is what you're seeing right now. As it's lit up, that's how you know you're training the time bank and not a particular skill. When training is not going on, it's just grayed out. And this is what it looks like when you're training an actual skill. So in 10 hours and 56 minutes, this skill will complete its training, and then it will move on to training the time bank, just so I have time stocked up. And if you want, you can just train the time bank. If you're not sure which particular tree you want to follow at this particular time, you could just stock up. VIP members will be able to hold up to 30 days, I believe it's 30 days, worth of time in their bank. Non-VIP members get 24 hours, so you will have to log in at least once a day to train your skills and empty your time bank. So like before, 50% of class basics to move on to these next blocks here, and then 50% of this block to move on to the subsequent blocks underneath it. So I trained almost 80% of fighter. At 50%, I was able to move on to chivalry because I particularly like to play an Elk and Templar. So this is the class tree that I'll follow. You come in and you just keep going. Like these ones are exponentially longer than the class basics tree. The first class basics tree skill training time was like 14 minutes for the first point. This first point is 1 hour and 14 minutes. Anyway, that is the class tree. So that same stuff all applies to each one of these. Got to have 50% of this one and move on to the next one, and so on. Then you can pick your particular race that you want to play. Start out with your basics, get your intellect, leadership skills, things of that nature. And then move on to what particular class or race, sorry, that you want to play. Like I said, I prefer to play an Elk and Templar, so I went down the Sylvan line into the Fairy line. I've seen a lot of Minotaurs and Centaurs, especially since they're going to be coming out with the Centaur female pretty soon. There's been a lot of people in this particular tree here. 50%, move on. Time bank. Okay, so let's cover the the profession block here. This is the tough one. This is where you decide. If you're a solo player, I would recommend going one route of combat and then one route of either crafting or exploration. If you prefer to do things yourself, I would go that particular route. If you're just going to be a crafter in a guild and you have people who are capable of harvesting all of the ore and everything else that you need in order to craft, then if you want to, just stick in here and you can do 2 particular crafting at the same time. However, the basics you cannot do 2. So a lot of people have been spending a lot of time in here. I have my stuff is all over the place, just trying out different trees, different ways to do things, and I'm probably going to go combat straight through, but it's really your preference.